in. Okay, I'm excited right now.
Same.
Okay, so to everyone who's watching, welcome to Moving Abroad 222 podcast. I am your host, Alay Washun, and today we have.
Me. I'm Anna. And I think when we found each other, we had exactly the same excitement because a lot of the things we were doing were similar with moving abroad and where we end up and the challenges that we have or had. So I have the same feeling that I'm also excited about this conversation.
I love it. I love it. So, where are you from and where are you located?
So I'm Swedish Brazilian, which basically means that I'm born in Brazil, but I'm adopted and raised in Sweden. And I've been living abroad for 5 or 6 years. We lived in Spain, we lived in Portugal, we have been in Thailand for the last 2.5 years, but right now I'm traveling Vietnam.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so obviously you're a mom. Look, okay, well let me not say obviously because our viewers doesn't know that. But you're a mom, so tell us just a little about being a mom and living abroad.
Yeah, and it's I think there's a lot of different ideas about how that is. But as a single mom traveling with two boys, and they are 15 and 12, that's different from traveling with a partner and two kids. Just for an example, it's also different if you're traveling as a white person or a black person, depending on where you go and so on. So there's a lot of things that I think would make sense for us to just mention and just remind people that your own journey will be different than maybe the more mainstream stories that you see on social media. And when we first moved to Spain, to Portugal, actually, it was because we wanted to homeschool and we needed to just get out of the system and feel and see something different than what we have in Sweden. So we were homeschooling or world schooling for maybe 1.5 years, which was extremely exciting and also complicated. And you realize how complicated it is when you have kids that outsmarts you. Then you're like, oh, actually, no. Like, so that process or that time, we learned a lot about how to collaborate and how to teach each other from a lot of different ways than when you just get the homework back from school and they say do it and then you're struggling to do it. And now the kids are in school, one in a private school and one in an international school in Thailand. So now I do have more time to actually do my own things than what I had when I was trying to be a teacher as well. And their father still lives in Sweden. Was that a good summary of
Yes, that was. So, yes, that was great. I want to break down more of the pros and the cons of world schooling and homeschooling. I want to touch on that because I think that moms that have younger kids, maybe the experience will be different than older children. So could you give us more insight on what that really entails? Because I think that people, I don't know, I think it's all perspective. Some moms might say, oh, it's easy. Yeah, if you got toddlers, maybe. When your kids are a little older, that'll be different. So what's your insight?
Yeah, and I'm thinking the first question maybe is if somebody says it's easy, then what are your expectations on homeschooling or world schooling? Is it that everybody should feel free and unfold what learning and knowledge and information is from their own perspective? Then that's maybe a period where you can be laid back and just be in exploration, and that's amazing. But I'm not sure that that's brilliant for all kids, because if you have a child that needs structure to feel that it's manageable whatever you are doing, or that you need to have, like, I need to know which time we're eating, or like I need to know which day we're going to the library, then that's not so explorational for you if you need to be that structure. So it's both about what the function you have as a parent teacher and how you think that balance is or should be in your family, But also, what are your ideas of learning? Like, what are the type of knowledge or teachings or learning that you feel is important for your child, for your children? Um, like my oldest one, the one that is 15 now, he is extremely good in making his own plans. Like he makes his own schedule, he makes mind maps. You know, goes up 5 a.m. in the morning to work out, then he does his homework, take out the dog, and then he goes to school. This is how he is organizing his life now. And I'm like, I wish I was that person too at some point, but it's not happening. While my youngest one would love to play Roblox 23 hours out of 24 because he will need to go to the bathroom at one point. Like, this is how different they are in leading themselves and making this work. So then I need to have different strategies to make sure that they get to the point where I'm thinking that they should. So, you know, what is easy and what is hard? Yeah. But also, what does it mean? Like, what is the point? Why do you want to homeschool or world school?
I love that. I love that. And I feel like that's a good question because I feel like sometimes people do things that they see other people do, or let's just say maybe they're inspired. We're not going to say that they do what other people do. They may be inspired. They may think that something might have a different effect. So they might say, hey, I want to do that. Because I know that I was like, oh, I want a world school, which I love it. Right. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, I gotta make at least 100K extra so they can fucking go to international school because when you really experience it and your kids are aging and you see how much they're growing and then you realize that they need to interact with other children, it's just so many layers to it. And then you'll start to see that maybe that might not be the choice anymore. So I really want moms to look at this from all
Yeah.
aspects.
But also, that's an idea that they need to meet other people and that they won't get social skills otherwise. That's just an idea, first of all, because they
Mhm.
do spend time with you. That's also
Right.
social skills. You are the one leading the interactions and then, you know, being the role model.
Mhm.
So, you know, we also need to challenge those fears or challenge those normal narratives about what is what. But when we were in Portugal, we had play dates three days a week. We were doing surf classes together with other kids. We were at the library doing home studies, and we have the third like board game evenings. And then we were doing the own things we were doing together, which was the Black history, like a city tour, for example. So we went with the tour, only Black people, learning about the Black history in Lisbon. I've never done anything as interesting in that in my whole life. And my kids would never learn that information anywhere else. And then, you know, you eat dinner and you talk about it together. Like, how was that for you? What did you learn? Like, what did you think about going on a city tour? Was it too complicated? Was it hard for you to walk because you were, you know, 9 years old or 10 years old or whatever? So it's like, it's an exploration of what the things really mean for you and for your kids when you're doing it. But in Spain, for example, we had play dates or you know, like scheduled things 5 days a week with other kids because it was a world schooling community. So we had kids everywhere. And then you're not on your own trying to be the social person. But if you have kids that are too overwhelmed by school, that are overwhelmed by, you know, the context of noise and sounds and things changing, why would you need to help them to socialize in that way? Then no, then you need to do something else so that your kids feel that they are okay. So, you know, like challenge the narrative of what it should be, because I heard that, obviously I heard that so many years, like, oh, they need social skills and all this. It's like, yeah, but what does it mean having social skills? Like, what does that actually mean in reality? And then you
Right.
can break it down and look at it for what it means to you.
Yeah, and then you actually have to know what your kids need. Like my kids are on me 24/7 about connecting with other kids. So I know for me, that's something that they want to have. They want to have friends, they want to connect. But then you have some people who kids are kind of like standoffish and they don't really have to have friends, or maybe they just might not be as free to like play with other kids, right? So I love the way you broke that down. And I really think for any moms or any parents that's watching, you have to know your child and what they need. Because, like you just said, that might not even be a factor with some children. Some children might not even need to technically connect with other kids,
No,
especially
and
if they
not
have a
in
lot
the
of
same-
siblings.
yeah, and not in the same way. I mean, you like talking with me. I like this type of interactions, but for children who is on the spectrum, for example, or simply easily get overwhelmed by eye contact, by not knowing exactly what to expect, by having a hard time coming home to somebody they don't know when they don't know how it looks, and these type of things, then if they just have anxiety by trying to be in social environments, that's not going to teach them anything anyway. Like, we need to make sure that we're actually offering the skills or the way so that they can teach a skill that we want. Because I think half of the people who would like to world school or homeschool, they want to come, run away from something. They want to leave something and have something else. And the other part is simply, we want to try it because we're curious. But if you need to leave school or the educational system behind because it's fucking up your kids, then you don't want to do the same mistakes again, obviously. Like, you see it clearly then, like this is not for us. Then we're not going to choose to do the same anyway.
I love that. I love the breakdown. I think that a lot of moms could learn a lot from you.
Yeah, I'm not, you're very good at reminding yourself how much importance that you speak and how many truths you have that make sense to talk about. And you're really good in always like, no, wait, other people need to hear this, and like, this matters, and like, but this matters too. And then you just continuously show up in social media, while I've been more like, I don't like social media, so I'm just going to avoid it and pretend that I don't need it. And now I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, because people, I feel like it's so many different perspectives. This is why I say that there's no one right or wrong answer. Like, I truly believe that there's no right or wrong. And the reason why I say that is because it's so many different people in the world who has come from so many different backgrounds, who's had so many different experiences, and there's a set of group or people for every person. There's a set of people over here that you never knew, your tribe that's looking for people like you, and you aren't even aware. So that's why I say, like, I think that everyone should have a voice at some point in their life where they can kind of share what's going on, tell their background, because you never know, there's like-minded souls who can relate to you, who feel connected, and they can heal and grow through you, you know? So I love it. I love it. I just love it. I love it. Okay, so you have a lot of experience, obviously, with living abroad. So when you first started, I want to know, where were you mentally when you first started? Because you say you started out in Spain. Did you start out in Spain?
Yeah, so we moved from Sweden to, no, so I'm saying it wrong. We moved from Sweden to Portugal.
Okay,
Um,
to Portugal. Okay.
and then we took the car and we drove down to Spain. So we changed the location down to
So
Spain.
so Portugal was your very first country where you resided when you first started your journey.
Yes, and we've been
Okay.
traveling a lot before, like vacation things and blah 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 blah. But Portugal was the first country where we're like, okay, we're taking our things and we're going.
Yeah,
Like,
like you
we're
moved.
changing the base. Like, we're doing this outside the country. Um, and I think, it's so stressful to move abroad. I don't think people realize that, neither remember it until they
Talk
look back
about it.
a couple of years back. It's like, oh shit, actually, like, it was so hard because yes, you're free. You're going to, learn so many things. You have to like learn a whole new culture or language or whatever it is. But also the things that you thought was safe, the rituals to have, the routines you had that was safe and comforting you, maybe in ways that you also didn't realize, try to bring them. Those routines, bring them if you can, because when everything else shifts, you might want to fall back to, no, 8 p.m. is my tea time, or like, it's my music time, or it's my reading time, or it's I never cook on a Friday, I go out to eat dinner time, or whatever it is, because everything else is already changing. Um, and what I didn't realize until we were away is that I have one of those periods when I'm like so exhausted, but are the new things. My kids also have that. And their time of balancing it might not be in alignment with my time, what I need. I might need 3 months, they might need 6. Or I need 6 and they need 2 weeks. And then to be, to have some grace and some respect for that period of time is going to be there. And what do we do? Like, how do we return home, or how do we, take on challenges? Because if I know that my kids really would like to go surfing, and the first 4 weeks they are just like, no, we don't, I don't want to do, then it's maybe not because they don't want to do it. It's just that they are actually exhausted and they need to rest. And maybe I should give them 1 more week before I start complaining of them not doing anything. And like, because it's about finding your rhythm. Then I shouldn't use anyone else's rhythm to try to find it.
It's about finding your rhythm. I love that. I hope that stays with our viewers, for everyone that's watching. Finding your rhythm. Because I think that a lot of the times people get this misconception that you're running, right? So when you're running, you're subconsciously carrying something with you and running to a new place. So what that ultimately does is you bring baggage. And when you bring baggage, it's hard to kind of get in the flow of things, and when you first start, I feel like it's super complicated. And like you said, I think people sleep on the fact that this is not an easy journey. And we have to stop pretending and gaslighting people on social media and making it seem like, hey, move abroad. Because I know y'all on the page, I know it's promoting moving abroad 222 24/7. Okay, we get it, right? But the truth of the matter is that this is not for the weak. And if you are weak, this probably isn't for you, because it'll break you down in the worst way. And you have to be prepared. And there are certain things that you have to do to prepare. So that's why I asked you about mindset. So could you give us the mindset that a mom of two has to have, knowing, okay, I'm leaving all of this behind. This is my norm. It's just going to be me and my kids. I'm taking my children. In that moment when you were packing, getting the paperwork, getting everything together, what mindset do you have to be in at that moment? And where were you mentally?
So when I was, I'm 38 now. When I was 19, I took a driver license for a truck, a heavy truck, with the only idea that I was supposed to be able to live abroad and always make a living. This is what I was thinking when I was 19. When I was 21 or 22, I did the same decision, taking the driver's license to drive a bus, because I really knew somewhere already that I shouldn't be stuck in one place and that I needed to see the world and that I was longing for more freedom. So for me, the decision, like to actually, pick down the decision into actions, started a long, 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 long way back. And then I revisited it and I, do other things and figure things out along the way so I can actually make the decision and move. But I think we all need to deal with the fear of the unknown and the fear that we might, feel like we're failing, or that we are lost, or that we are without control. It's just that we're dealing with that every day anyway.
Mm.
This just puts a big spotlight on it. Um, and the question that somebody asked me, which I love, is like, okay, but what would you do if you didn't fear that you were going to disappoint somebody you know?
Mm.
Then what would you do? Would you move or not? And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, actually. Like, how much is it the shame of being a failure? Or people will talk, or my mom will be, whatever, whatever. That's also an interesting question that I think the listeners can just consider. Like, would it be different if they weren't scared or weren't afraid that somebody would, think they were a failure? And also, what is the worst thing that could happen? Like, what is the worst case scenario if I go to Portugal and I fuck it up? Okay, but what is the worst part then? Like, what can I not deal with?
Right.
Seriously, like, what can I not deal with when I'm thinking about it logically, not emotionally, but logically?
Hmm.
Then why wouldn't I, as an adult, be able to figure that out? Because I'm an adult. Why wouldn't I? Like, what are the odds that I would not figure a challenge out?
Mm.
And then
That's
you try
deep.
it, you know, and then you fuck things up, and then you try it again, and then you learn, and that's life. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to deliver a perfect experience for my kids. Obviously, I'm not, because nothing is perfect. Everything
Right.
is complicated. But how do we learn then? Like, what can I do? How can I talk about it? What can we do? You know, together and separately.
You so deep. I always loved that about you from day one because I feel like I'm too deep.
Mm.
But like when I talk to people who can like break things down deeper, because I thought I was like the deepest of the fucking deepest, right? But then when you meet somebody that can go deeper, you like, damn, you actually making me think of things that I would have never thought of. Like, those are the type of people y'all want to be around and connect with in the world. Okay? Like, you want to connect with people that's going to make you think outside the box. Because these are things that a lot of people that move abroad, that travel, or say, hey, I want to move abroad because they feel like it's a quick fix. They don't think about these things, they don't evaluate these thoughts.
No, and it's, I mean, of course you get this high feeling when you're like, yeah, we're going, like we packed our things, like woo, like we totally got this. And then when you're driving in Spain, no, in Spain, we were driving in France on our way to Portugal with the car filled with things and kids and power banks that was outcharged and cards that were you couldn't use them in some country because you forgot to open, all of these things, but you're just like, okay, I'm an idiot. Like, all right, but okay, we're on our way to the destination when we're sleeping tonight. We got this. And suddenly it's a hailstorm on the highway, and people are just like stuck under the bridge, which I had the luck to be also just be under. And it was like hail, like this. And it's like made bumps in the windshield and in the, like everywhere. The whole car was like, and I was like, what do I do now? And the kids are like, is the car going to break? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything. Can you just be quiet? Like, what am I going to do? And everybody was like, nobody could go out of their cars. Nobody knew. Never. And also, I don't speak French, so even if it was on the radio, I wouldn't get it. And then those type of things, you cannot prepare for that. But then you can just talk about it. You're like, yeah, this is apparently things that happens, and how do you feel about it? Like, how was this for you? And you can co-regulate with your kids. But what do you do when you need to call the insurance company and try to explain this to them? And also, like, did you have the right insurance, or did you just think you didn't need it? Or there's so many things where you will learn, so many small situations where you're like, oh, okay, some grace
Nope.
here as well.
Right.
Breathe, and you will figure it out. And it's very good to not have a strong inner critic. If we were to say something that I think people should think about, practice to not like break yourself down when you're making mistakes. Don't bring your strongest inner critic when you do things. That's not going to be cozy at all.
Yeah, that's not healthy. Because then you'll be like, oh, I didn't do it. Yeah. And I have to tell myself that too constantly. Like, girl, you in a whole foreign place. You don't speak these people language. You are in a foreign territory completely. You can't just go to mom, dad, cousin, sister, friend. Nobody's available. So you have to show yourself grace.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, so you've lived in a few places enough to be able to give us insight on visas. Let's go into visas first. For every country and location that you transitioned through and lived in for a period of time with your kids, how did you go about the visa process, and what like tips would you give to people for that? Because I know some people say, hey, we didn't do a visa, we just did 90 days, whatever. Some people say, hey, we did this for this period of time. What's your advice with visas, and what was your experience?
So first of all, because we are Swedish, we don't need visas for Portugal, not for Spain. So we chose the safe option that was available for that reason. Portugal is a good option for US citizens as well. I cannot exactly pinpoint the things, but there was a lot of US people and families that we were hanging out with in Portugal that said that they were choosing between different countries for different reasons, and Portugal was a good reason. So for anyone who's listening that didn't think about Portugal, then I think you should Google and see how it looks and what it is and what it's not for you. When it comes to how we needed to do in Thailand, I had so much dissonance in, do I want to stay in Thailand or not? Because a lot of things that I love about Thailand, the nature, like the amazing jungle. I love the jungle, and I love that people are so nice, like they're kind. But I struggled a lot with not having community, or not really have community. So for me, being in Thailand has also always been like, I'm not sure if it's the best for me though. Like
Yeah.
my kids love it, but like for me, it's like I'm not 100% sure. And then to choose the visas, I was choosing based on how I was feeling, which made it so complicated in the beginning, because I should have chosen just to do the digital nomad visa and have access for 5 years and not making it difficult. But instead I was like, oh, but I should do the ED visa. I should, because I was scared to not find and not feel at home. It's just that you won't feel at home if you're not actually making it your home either. So, that's not the most brilliant decision I did long term. And also, what does it mean to be home for you in this year, this place? Like, what does that actually mean? Because that might mean totally different things depending if you're 38 or if you're 28 or if you're 48 or if you have one kid or two or five, or if you're in a city or if in the suburb, or like it's so many different things. So to go back and to think about that, like what does home mean for me, and how do I want to feel? Like how does it feel to be home? But I would say it's never a good idea to mess up with a visa. Like read and learn what the options are properly and choose the safest option, because you're not stupid just because you don't understand it the first time, which I think people do. They're like, oh shit, I'm too stupid for this. Like, I don't want to do it. And then they panic and then they just do stuff. It's like, no, that's not about that. Like, it's hard to understand these things. End of story. But like, it's okay to not get it. I also don't get everything. Like, you learn, ask someone, then you learn.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that a lot of people always think that they have to get visas right away as well. And I think that like you said, you should take your time with figuring out your visa, or figuring out what best fits you as far as a visa, because there are so many options. But then there are countries where you can go and you don't even need a visa right away. And there are places where you can go that aren't as heavy on you
Mm.
about, you know, a visa. So explore your options.
Also,
Good
about
advice.
homeschooling or world schooling, if you want to do it, choose a country where it's legal. It's not legal everywhere. So if you want to homeschool or world school, then you have to make a decision. Are you going to be like having your address in the country where you came from? And is it legal to do there? Or are you transferring everybody and you take your address out from that country to put it in a new one? Is it legal there then? Because this is has been hard to travel with kids, and especially to homeschool, because I'm like, how are the regulations actually? Like, can I actually do this like this or not? And what happens in my own country or my country of origin if I do it and I just like, no, we were out, you don't need to care, maybe they do care, actually. And then that's not a funny conversation to end up in the end.
Exactly. So you definitely should know about that though. Like I know that for Americans you can homeschool, but they leave all that up to you. But I know there is other countries where you go, you do have to make sure because in some countries you are required to enroll your children in some type of school. So having children is not just a walk in the park, y'all. Traveling with children, living abroad with children, it's not a walk in the park. It's definitely a route that many probably can't take. Or I see why a lot of moms sometimes they're like, yeah, I can't do it. And I'm looking at them like, you know what? I respect it. I get it. Because it's a lot, right?
It is. It
Okay,
is.
so, yeah, it really is. Okay, so now that we spoke on visas, let's knock out the biggest thing that everyone cares about so much. You guys always do all these videos, but you never talk about the money and what you do for work and how do you make money abroad. So let's go into what that looks like for you. So what do you do? Could you share with us what it is that you do and how do you sustain abroad?
So I think the first question should be, if you're planning to move abroad, then like, you cannot just find work and think that then it will work for you to do whatever, and you can start a bar in the beach, and like, no, it's not how it works. Like, that's just a dreamy way of trying to feel more free. But I needed to think, like, what can I do? What am I doing now? And how can I transfer that to do it online? Because I want
Mhm.
to travel. If I just want to change the location, that maybe I can just transfer what I'm doing, learn the new language if I need one, and I can do it over there. But it also depends on the regulations and what I'm actually doing. Um, I work with sexual health as a sexologist and a counselor, and my bachelor degree is with social work. But the idea that I had from the start, that social work you can do everywhere. You just need to understand the international principles of it, but you can do that everywhere. And you can be a counselor everywhere because mental health is basically, the principles are the same. You just need to learn the culture and the context. Well, that's not really true though, because you cannot do social work in a country where you don't speak the language. First of all, that's the thing. But there is no international social work anymore. Also, that's not what we do. That's not how the world is organized. That's, if you think about it, like how much international social work is actually being done. So not really. And in Thailand, there are no social workers. So why would they need somebody that is a social worker that doesn't speak the language? Like, like your ideas about your profession, you need to think about it. Like, does this really make sense what I'm doing?
Right.
Um, and I would say catch some role models, people that are doing similar things to what you are doing. Well, follow them. Like, how did they do? What decisions did they make? Can you make similar decisions? And just
Exactly.
what's working out for you. But there is no, one size fits all. There's no one way to do these things. It's not how it works. Um, and for me, because I work as a sexologist, I do basically everything online right now. So I'm educating psychologists in the Philippines for, how they can become more, or how they can become sexual wellness facilitators. And I'm doing it together with an amazing sexologist, the first one in the Philippines. She's just like awesome. And I educate people in Sweden, and I have lectures in the US online. And like, there's so many ways that I can do my work in the best way, where I also can appreciate it. But it's not that I learned the skill set for doing it online in my master program. That's not really what they taught me. So I need to level up that. I need to learn that. I need to be specific with what I'm actually planning to do. But I also need to figure out, can I do this to follow only somebody else? No, you have to lead. Like, this is your journey, your
Right.
decisions. then you probably need to lead your business mindset or your career or your work differently as well. You cannot be a follower only. It will not work. End of story.
Exactly. And I think that people need to set themselves up, like you said, you kind of need to have an idea of what you're good at and how you can sustain. These are things and thoughts that you have to have before you even leave your home country. I think people think that you leave one system to go to another system. That's not how this shit works. Now, if you want to do that, cool. But you'll have situations where I know a lady who had a job. She depended on that remote job. She moved abroad, and guess what they did? They fired her ass while abroad, while she's living abroad. Imagine that.
Uh, uh,
So
Not
it's
fun.
like gotta build something, and I think that people who, because I actually did a consultation with the couple, and they pretty much wasted their money, which is fine. A lot of people do it, but they wanted to work abroad, like actually work like in the country, like
Mm.
labor. And I'm like, where you're trying to go? Because it was somewhere in Spain, I can't remember, but it was one of the places in Spain where no, hell no, they're not letting foreigners work for sure.
Mm.
I forgot exactly where it was, but I was trying to explain to them, no, they're not going to allow that. And they're like, well,
Mm.
that's the only way that I want to do it. And it's like, people, you guys have to understand that you have to build something. You have to build something solid. You have to build something that you would kind of like transmute and have some type of foundation to grow on before you even go abroad. You can't expect to go into these people countries and work. You get what I'm saying? So I love that insight and how you broke that down, because it's kind of like, I think that people, they don't get it. And even after seeing this, they'll ask the same questions, because I think people are lazy. And I think, like, for my country, Americans are set up to, they want to be told what to do. They have no sense of self-realization, no sense of self-mastery. They like being led by a higher power, or someone telling them, hey, do this, do this, do this. So it's like they want to jump from one system to the
Mm.
next. And people don't understand that when you move abroad, you're putting yourself in more so of a entrepreneur role eventually. That's something that you will have to be open to step into, because that's the doors that's going to open. That's the position you're going to be put in. You can't work remotely forever, right?
No, and I think it's it's maybe not only that some people are, you said lazy, and I'm thinking we become very lazy in our way to think when we never practice in like challenge ourselves over time all the time. So you become very like, A to B, and this is how I do things, and then this is how it needs to work, because that might be the only way that you practice on how to solve problems. While doing these type of challenges or these type of changes, I would say, like you, like book a consultation with somebody that could coach you and just like help you to open this up. Um, because I don't know anyone that does what I do. Like I met,
Me
so I
neither. I don't either.
no, I don't know anyone. Still keep trying to find somebody, because I would love to like, team up with somebody that's like, totally does what I do. And then I'm like, but I'm not going to find anyone that studied what I did, because I studied dance and movement therapy, and I have a Master of Science in Sexology. So I work with, the intersection of dance and sex, basically, without being a stripper. But I don't know people that done that. Like I don't know. I didn't meet anyone that is doing that. And yeah, that's another thing. Like, how will you feel with that type of loneliness when you need to lead yourself differently? Like, is that okay for you? And if it's not, then okay. Like, how can you organize your work situation? And maybe, yeah, you do want to work in that other country. Okay. Then what can you find in the country you're in? What companies have a connection to that country? Can you work for that company so that they can send you there? Like, how can you do this in a way that makes sense? And if you cannot, then okay. Like, then then you need to rethink the ideas you have one more time. It doesn't mean that it's impossible to find a way. You just need to rethink it again because now you have new information. And then you go back and you sort it again.
Good insight. Again, things that I don't think people think about. We break it
No.
down in so many layers. We break it down in so many layers, and I hope that the viewers are watching and listening because these are things that you're gonna come to. You're gonna have these moments where you'll come into these thoughts randomly, and you want to be prepared. You want to be like, "Oh yeah, I remember watching something about that," and then you'll kind of know how to navigate the experience. Okay, so now I want to go into healthcare abroad. So, what are your um your experiences? Because you've been in a few different countries with, where you probably had to deal with healthcare. So, do you do like universal? Like, How do you go about the healthcare for like living abroad? Because I know there's lots of different options.
Yeah. So I always make sure that we have the right vaccinations before we go. And I think some people that I talk to, they're like, oh, but it's so expensive. I will just figure it out when I go there. I don't think that's a good option at all. Like, it's not a good option because you actually don't know how you can get those vaccinations and what you need to pay and how it even works. But rather, if you need to return home, when you need to return home for whatever reason, keep the information and things in your own journals, in your medical history, when it says, no, we got these things here. End of story. Because sometimes the other countries are like, yeah, but that's not valid. Or like, we cannot read that anyway. Like when I was trying to transfer the school grades to Portugal, and they're like, we don't care. It's not translated. We cannot read it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So then I translated, and they're like, oh yeah, good, but it doesn't have the stamp on it. It has to be verified. I was like, shit. Right, okay, good point. So some things is easier to do in your country of origin or where you're based right now. And when it comes to healthcare, I mean, I did not know how sick I could get in sepsis until I got sick last fall here in Thailand. They have,
Really?
yeah, I was so sick. I was like so sick. I couldn't get out of bed to get to the emergency room. Like I was really sick. Um, it was crazy. Um, but the healthcare in Thailand, I really appreciate how many specialists that they just, got me into when I was sick. There was no, if you have
Wow.
money, it's fine. Like you pay for the time and you pay for it, but it was reasonable. And they were so good in what they were doing. I really have like a good experience of dealing with the healthcare in Thailand. And I think for anyone who is choosing between Vietnam and Thailand, then I think this is one of the things that would make a difference. I don't think Vietnam has the same access to quality healthcare, for example.
Yeah.
Uh, but also, what is healthcare for you? Because a lot of people, when we talk about Thailand, they're thinking about the medical, like cannabis for what is it called when you have like you're allowed to have
The
cannabis or
met,
marijuana.
yeah, kind of like the weed card.
Yes, yes. But then these are rules that are on their way to change in Thailand, if I'm not totally
I
unaware.
heard
That they're
about that.
closing
Yeah, they
down.
said they're
Yeah.
gonna be banning it.
And then if that would be one of the reasons for somebody to choose Thailand, then what is the plan B? Because if you choose only because of that, or majority because of that, because you know that that means so much more quality of life for you in your situation, then what is the plan B? And this is also why you're not supposed to, you're like, okay, I'm here, I got it. But it's like, you have to constantly challenge yourself and like be in movement, at least in how you're thinking. Because, yeah, what is the plan B or C or D if anything happens?
Hmm. And a lot of people, I don't think they think about that. But as far as the healthcare, I don't really. A lot of people are paying out of pocket. I'm not really seeing a lot of people with insurance. I've talked to a lot of different people. Some people have it, majority don't. Because they're just paying out of
Yeah.
pocket for like dental, or if they have an incident and they have to go to the hospital. I'm seeing many people and I'm hearing, you know, a lot of people share their experiences, say they just pay out of pocket. So,
Yeah, I would say also, what does that mean if you have a base insurance in your country of origin or where you moved from? Then is that insurance still valid for bigger emergencies, helicopter rides, or whatever? If you need to get transferred back or whatever disaster thing, then is that insurance valid if you don't have an insurance abroad? Or can you keep that and you just add an international something to it? And how long time is that valid then? Like, there's so many things you should double check and triple check. My insurance I had for the kids were suddenly not valid after we've been abroad a year. And I was like, why
oh,
didn't you tell me? Why am I paying for it then if it's not valid? Why didn't you just say that after 1 year? And they're like, oh, we thought you were coming back. And I was like, oh, you should tell me if I call you and I ask and I tell you about the plans, then you should tell me. And they're like, oh,
right.
we actually don't do that work that often. We didn't know or we didn't think about it, which is also something you will realize, that do not trust everybody what they say blindly, because they actually didn't do it. They're trying to help you out, but if they didn't do it, then maybe you need to be the expert in your own life and your own
Exactly.
business.
And to know what best fits you and to know about your insurance. Okay, that's good insight. So, moral of the story, loves, do your research on your insurance. Make sure that you find one that suits you. And if you decide not to even go with the fucking insurance and just pay out of pocket, make sure that the country you're in will allow you to pay, and make sure it's affordable. You don't want to move somewhere where you're like, hey, I'll pay out of pocket. And then it's like 20 grand. Do your research.
Yeah. Yeah, like, because it's worth doing the research. And there was some kind of incident the other week. Was it in Bali? Was it a Brazilian tourist or a tourist from Brazil, and she fell down in like a cliff in
Oh,
a
that was
volcano?
that she was in Indonesia. She was in in the mountains near the
Right.
volcano.
And she died there. And I'm like, how is that? What happened? And a lot of things happened, of course, and we're never going to know. But I think it would have been different if you're like, here is my credit card, give me a helicopter. It's unlimited. Or if you actually only have 10K for whatever.
Right.
Like, there will be a difference here when it's like real, like the shit hits the fan or not. And if you have kids, then dare to sit with that. Like, what is the worst case scenario? Actually, like, what is it? I was
Right.
saying Thailand. It's more like, what happens if my kids would get hit on the road? Or like I'm saying to my 15-year-old, like, I think you should drive a scooter. Like, I think you should practice. He's like, did you see the traffic? And I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I was in my Swedish brain that when you're 15, it's fun to ride a scooter. I'm like, actually, that's a good point.
Probably not. Right.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, probably not. Yeah. Because the traffic in Thailand is a little, I mean, shit. Vietnam has Thailand beat, but Thailand does have crazy
Oh,
traffic.
have you seen the scooters? I was out yesterday and dropped my earring. And I was like, how many scooters is it actually? And it's like, woo, woo, woo. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. I literally record every time I go out and they drive. Because of the fact that I think that it's crazy that this is normal. And I'm just like, that would drive me insane. Speeding, jumping lanes, jumping in front of each other. This car this close to this. I'm like, oh my goodness. And people definitely need to be careful and think about healthcare and everything, because that's why I try to be as careful as possible so we won't have no incidents. Okay, so that's healthcare. Now I want to go into culture shocks. I want to go into culture shocks first, and then we'll talk about pros and cons. Culture shocks. When you first started your journey with living abroad, because I think this is very important, and I always like to highlight culture shocks because I feel like people don't know what they are until they are experiencing them. So,
Yes.
what are some culture shocks that you personally had when you first started out, and even now?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind, which is also something that I constantly need to challenge and constantly need to think about, is how is it to show up as a Black person in that particular space, um, and not because somebody else necessarily has a negative idea about it or have, whatever it is, but how used to standing out am I in my own personal experience as a Black person or not, which is one thing. But also in the other side, like if you're a white person going to Asia, for example, how used to maybe getting treated as a colonizer are you? Or just as you're a wallet? How painful will that experience be for you? And when we're not aware of the stereotypes and how strong those stereotypes is in the specific country we're in or we're going to, then we might take a behavior or a pattern personal. And we might think that, oh, this person or this country or this and that or whatever. And I think we will all benefit from just looking at it as stereotypes. Like, how strong are the stereotypes where I am? And what do I need to do to deal with this in a way that feels okay? Um, with being a Black person with a Swedish name and a Swedish passport, nobody understands that. It does not matter where I go. Nobody understands that ever. Like, ever. Like, when I came to Vietnam yesterday, and she was like, where are you going? What are you doing? Do you work in Thailand? And I was like, no. She's like, no. So what do you do? And I can't, like, now with this experience, I know that what she is asking, what she wants to know is, am I a hooker or not? Like, and this is this what I do?
Are
Or
you
like,
serious?
it's always like this when I say that I don't work and my passport doesn't match with how I look, then they're like, what's it? Because we know that there are Black people in the US and Canada and Africa and whatever. There is no Black people in general from Sweden that you see officially, like it's non-existence as an idea or as the truth in many sides of the world. And I was just like, no, I work online. And she's like, okay. And then she could drop that. But then she looked at me, she's like, what's your name? And I'm like, it's Anna Charlotta Margareta Linde. She's like, that's a long name. And I'm like, yes, you do get your name from your relatives in Sweden. So the middle names, it's my grandmother's name and it's my paternal grandmother's, maiden names.
Dang, together. Okay.
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, okay, I get it. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm adopted. It doesn't make sense to anyone. I know. Like it's fine. And then we were figuring it out. Not complicated. She was not rude at all. But if I'm not aware of what I accidentally, open up, which people's ideas or narratives or stereotype, I'm going to feel like I am, in a very high pressure of proving myself, or I have the right to be here, and that's maybe not giving the best experience of traveling or either. And we all have these. Like I meet so many. Well, when I meet Black people, they are like, oh, but like you're weird. And I'm like, no, I'm just not Black in the way you are Black, or whatever that means. And they're
Means.
like, no, but you're weird. And I'm like, okay, but you're not the blueprint. Also, bitch, like don't talk to me like you would be the blueprint, because why? Like, that's not making sense. Don't do that.
All Black
And
people feel like that.
yeah, and I'm like, it's not making sense. But in the other hand, of course, the Black people I meet, wherever I meet them, whenever I meet them, has 100% a different upbringing and situation than I have, because I'm raised in a white context with white parents. Of course, I'm not going to make so much sense. And I don't. That's also I don't. But it doesn't mean that I'm more or less, or that they are more and less. It just means that the things we thought we had in common, maybe we actually didn't have them in common. And that's okay too.
Hmm. So would you say that specifically your culture shock is you being a woman of color from Sweden? So your story is different.
Yeah.
So would you say that sometimes just that alone could be kind of like a culture shock to your experiences?
Yeah, because I don't, sometimes I need to think, I'm like, wait, who is this person think they are talking to? Because I don't get it. Like, I don't necessarily understand the questions I get, and then I'm like, right, okay, wait, I'm missing something here, and then I need to reverse myself and like, okay, wait, so I need to ask this now, or like, I don't know how to fix it,
Yeah,
and also my kids are mixed, so their dad is white, so they are more like white passing in a lot of ways than what I am, which also
absolutely.
means that people are going to ask if they're also my kids or not. And, it puts us in a lot of different things. Um, and whatever situations we're in and whatever situations people will end up in, it's, from my perspective, it's extremely important to remember that there's a lot of things that could be right in this or true in the same time. Like, I can have a lot of layers of social identities. I have a lot of different things and experiences, and that's it. Like, it's never either or anymore, especially not when you're traveling and moving abroad. It's never either
Exactly.
or. And that's okay. We're just not used to it because it's easy for
Mhm.
us to do like it's either or right or wrong, yes or no. It's just that's not valid. Like, it's not working anymore, especially not when it comes to this, because everything is process, everything is flow, everything is changeable. All sides and dimensions of you make sense. Maybe not just in this context or exactly there, and that's okay too.
I love how you can give us a different perspective from your story because I'm pretty sure there are many people who do not know a black woman from Sweden that looks like you, who
No,
has had your experiences.
no.
So I think that people are always so into what I went through and what I had to experience. But I love to be able to put a lens in on someone else's experience that identify as one and the same as me, right? But that looks different, that comes from a different place. It gives people a different perspective. And I feel like people can show more grace too, because you never know what people have to go through,
No, and it's hard.
especially, you know.
Yeah, and it's hard because we all just want to belong. Everybody is longing for the same thing. Everyone wants to belong. Everybody needs to feel accepted. Everybody wants to feel seen and heard. Everybody wants to feel home. And it's valid. Like, it's valid that you're feeling that. It's valid that I feel that. It's just that it's not a competition. Like, it's not supposed to be a competition. If you have the right to belong compared to if I have the right to belong, the question is, how can we make that work? Or how is it possible for us or not right now to figure this out? And I think, people will, they accidentally fight you when they feel like they're not getting what they need. And sometimes that's what happens when we go into either or. People are like, you're over there and I'm here and this is the right place, but you are the one that is different. People do this in general. Kids do it even more clearly or more like obvious. It's just that it doesn't mean that I need to fight them back with the same way, because that's also something that we're so quick on doing. Because if I feel like somebody's threatening me, that I'm going to tell them straight or whatever. And whoever we are in you know that equation or those positioning in that moment, whatever example the people listening can think of, then if we could just take a breath and like something is painful now, This is scared. I'm sad. I don't want to be othered. I'm also longing for belonging or for tribe or whatever. Then maybe we can choose to answer differently. And then we break that circle. And maybe we're not able to do it exactly that time, but maybe we can do it the next time.
Right.
Um,
Eventually.
because it doesn't matter which, you're black in your way and I'm black in my way. It really also it doesn't mean anything if I cannot listen to your stories with compassion and love and respect. And then you can be whoever you are, whatever you are in the world. It doesn't matter then. But if I'm so focused in, your blackness and my blackness, and this is the things that is the only thing that will make sense, and we need to hold it. Yeah, but we're also not seeing all of the dimensions and varieties of ourselves. And then maybe that's the thing. We should open up for being more transparent or more curious in the other differences or similarities that we have. Then we will figure it out. Wow, I made that sound so fucking easy. It's not,
Yeah, you made,
obviously.
yeah. And all I heard the entire time was journey. So this is why I say that I feel like moving abroad is a spiritual journey. And I always say I don't care how people see it. I see it as a spiritual journey. And the reason why I say I see it as that, because everything that you just said coincides with it. It's a journey of realization, testing who you are, learning who you are, learning what home really is for you and how you even see home. What do you see as home? Where does this begin? How was this planted? It takes you down a journey and a rabbit hole of self realization, mastering yourself, coming to terms with who you really are. And this journey will show you. And that's why I say, to me, it's a spiritual journey, because the whole time you were speaking, that's all I heard. It's like you're exploring yourself through your experiences, through the world, through living abroad and traveling. Right? So I love that. And then you said something about other, because it's like when you're not in your home country, you are identified as other. But
Yes.
like you say, it will make you go into one of those things where it's like, what does other mean to you? And how do you fucking see yourself? Because we can always talk about, oh, they see me like this. They no. How do you see yourself? Because people are our mirrors. This can go so deep on so many layers, but you get what I'm saying?
Yes. And it is a spiritual journey. And then immediately, you come back to how, because you said home or finding home or being home and belonging. The only thing that makes sense to me ever is that I need to be home in my own body when I move around like this. I can be home also in the context, in the place, in the country, but I need to be home in my body. And what does that mean? How does that look like, depending on where I am and who I am? And then, all of these different things as well. But if we will send, the people who listen something about the spiritual journey, from my perspective, that would be, do you feel home in your body?
I love that.
And when you do,
Do you feel
uh,
home in your
yeah, and when you do, whenever memories or situations where like, yeah, like I really feel anchored, grounded, and like home, like I feel that. And I say, how did you get there? You know, what did you do to get there? And what can you bring that to that place, to this place, and how can you do that?
I love that. Okay, so if someone came to you right now and said, hey, Anna, I'm looking to move abroad. I'm a mom, I have kids. Or maybe we're a married couple and we have kids. Whatever, I have kids. I'm looking to move abroad. What steps should I take? And how should I go about this journey? How would you answer that question? What advice would you give to those people or that person?
So I would ask why they want to move abroad and what do they want to feel? What experiences do they want to have, or what life are they trying to build? And are they running from something, or are they choosing something else? Or is it both?
Mm.
Um, and what are the fears? What are you scared of? How does your worst case scenarios look like? And how can you verify if they are real or not? And then we would talk about that, I think. Now I still made it sound easy. This is like an hour conversation only to answer those questions, really. But I think that's the questions I would like for us to unfold together, because it's also a journey to be able to unfold and have a real intimate conversation with somebody about something that really matters. So it's like a way to do the journey and not physically do it, but you're still doing it together. So,
I love it. I love it. I love it. So what great things do you have going on where people can keep in touch with you? Like, I know you got some great things that you can offer to someone that's watching, and where could they find you?
good question. So they can find me on my website, which is the adoptedsexologist.com, and it's the same handle for Instagram. And my Substack is also the same, like the adopted sexologist at substack.substack.com. Um, and what I do the best is maybe coaching, like the conversations we're having now. And it's so much about meeting somebody where they are and not necessarily present this amazing scenario in the front and everybody's going there, but like, no, what are you actually, what's your fears, what's your worst fears, and how can we make sure that they're not so scary anymore, and how can we make sure that you feel safe enough to challenge them and to do things differently. Um, but since I'm a sexologist, I obviously specialize in sexual health and sexological problems, which could be sexual trauma. It could be, somebody that has a lot of performance anxiety and it eats its way into the bedroom. It could be so many things. But sexual liberation is one thing. Like, how can we embody that? How can we make that to, like, how can we make our erotic self the one thing in our personality that we want us to lead, because we do feel empowered when we are connected with it. Yeah, I think that's a good
I
summary.
love it. I love it. I feel like you were so insightful today. I feel like you gave so much deep, deep wisdom that people can truly use, that are gems. You drop so many gems that people can really use subconsciously. Because I truly feel like when you watch someone's story, you take in pieces just by listening. You take in pieces and you can either use it, transmute it into growth, or you can do whatever else with it. But I recommend using it as a tool to assist you, not hinder you, right? So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I feel like everyone that's watching truly enjoyed you, truly enjoyed your insight. And these are tools that they'll be able to use and that they can think about with traveling, or if they are even thinking about moving abroad and they haven't moved yet. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to
Thank
make
you.
sure I tag all your information so that everyone know where to find you. And I
Yeah,
hope we'll see more of you, right? We want to know more about adventures in the future.
probably. I was thinking that we should consider, like, how do you date abroad? Or like, how do you make your relationship work when you're moving abroad? Like, how do you
Yeah.
deal with those conflicts or those challenges that come up, both relationship wise, but also like with your intimacy? So that in my head is something we could follow up through with later if we need to.
We
Well,
can. I think that'll be great. And I think that everybody who's watching would agree. I think that dating is something that's not really discussed. I don't know why people ooh and ah and shy away from it, because You want to date. Let's not pretend like you don't want to date. I see a lot of ladies moving abroad, and I see it more so in the women because I think that women lie to themselves and
Mm.
they want to pretend, oh, I don't need a man. I'm fine. I'm just on my spiritual journey and my self love journey. Lady, you're going to come to a point in time where you're going to want masculine energy. Or maybe if you like women, you're going to want a partner. I think that we pretend that we're okay with being by ourselves when the truth is we yearn naturally as physical beings for connection. So let's not pretend like we don't. Because I think a lot of people pretend due to them being hurt, due to their traumas and things they've been through, they try to tell themselves, I'm good by myself. But that's
And
really unhealthy.
And I mean, maybe it is like that in that time that you are good only with yourself. Maybe that's perfect. But the longing for connection, the longing for intimacy, the importance of understanding different, sexual stereotypes or culture for dating or what is norm or not, what is okay or not in this new place or not, and how you need to again, like navigate yourself, your boundaries. What is actually okay for you to say yes or no to? And how do you
Mm-hmm.
know that you're saying yes to the right thing when
Exactly.
you're in another context and you feel that things are different? Or, questions like what different forms of intimacy is available? Do I want to choose? Is the right one for me now when I'm only experienced this part or this way before? And that
Right.
type of guidance, that type of deeper understanding ourselves in our essence. I'm very much for doing that, obviously, as well, because
Let's do it. I'm excited for that. I feel like that'll be great. And let us know in the comment section if that's something that you want to see us do. Let us know. Give us some feedback. Drop some comments. We would really appreciate the feedback. So I'm sending you love, lots of love. I appreciate you for exchanging with me today. Thank you so much and being patient because you know what we had to get through to get here, but we made it.
yeah, very good. And again, it's nothing personal. Technique that we neither of us really understands. It's also not personal. You breathe, you shake it off, and you do. And
And
then
we figured it out.
yeah, of course we did. What else?
Sounds good. So we'll be seeing you soon. For everyone that's following, make sure you go over to her page and follow. Support her journey, ask questions, reach out, book a session, right?
Yeah.
Book a session, link in bio, and we're definitely going to be seeing more of her on the platform. And thank you guys for watching Moving Abroad 222 podcast. Make sure you guys follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, okay? I'm working on Facebook and TikTok. I'm one person, so it's hard to manage all of these different pages, but I'm working, okay? So just make sure you guys follow. Stay tuned for more. If you are a person who has moved abroad or you have a story that you just simply want to share, then make sure you reach out so we can connect and get you on the podcast. So I'll see you guys later. Sending love. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.